So wanted to welcome you all to our webinar today. Give your hotel initiatives a little love with BTP Automation and Grass Technologies on our Valentine's Day today. Mike, would you want to start off with the introductions?
Sure, yeah. So Mike Duffy, I oversee product at Grasp, and I can go into a little bit of the story and background of Grasp here in a moment. And so Stacy, I don't know if you want to do an intro, and then I'll go through what Grasp does.
Absolutely. So my name's Stacy Mack. I'm the Director of Sales for BTP Automation. I've been in travel technology for almost 30 years. I started in back office and CRM, and then moved into reporting and analytics, and then actually moved into virtual payment for a while. I'm currently the chair of the GBTA Payment Solutions Committee. And now I have been with BTP Automation in hotel sourcing and really excited to be here. We are very excited to have a relationship and partnership with Grasp. Together, our mission is to revolutionize how customers leverage their travel data, making it easier and more efficient for them to manage their hotel programs. By working hand in hand, we can tackle the challenges faced by our corporate customers and travel management companies, offering innovative solutions as a unified approach to enhance their travel programs. So thank you so much for putting this together and having BTP on today.
It's great to have you, and just for everyone on with the Grasp to understand who Grasp is, if you're not familiar with us, we kind of focus on four key areas. The TMC, CTD agency, where we provide tools on visualization, analytics, agent commission management, cloud hosting. We have also enterprise clients that have a need for rich visualization and reporting, virtual payments, and that's for both the TMC and the enterprise, where there's touchless bookings into the GDS, OBTs, and 100% reconciled statements. And then we have another division, data services, and so this is pure data, where we're consolidating, cleaning, packaging data, and that's sometimes it's hard to acquire that data sources, but we have the technology to do that, like on an on-premise agency database. So we provide that automation. And just taking a look at the agenda, I'll hand that over to you, Stacy.
Yeah, so our agenda today is we want to talk about starting your hotel program off right, and that starts with the sourcing. So we want to talk more about, what are you doing today with your sourcing? What are your challenges? What are the challenges in general? And then, what's intelligent hotel sourcing that BTP Automation could help you with? Then we're going to go into cleaning up data with Hotel Normalization, and the Grasp team is so solid with that and their Hotel Normalization product. And then we're going to talk a little bit about tracking the property's commissions with Grasp's product, graspHOPR, and really being able to narrow in on the hotels that are and are not paying commission. And then finally talking about discussion of hotel attachment rates and compliance to your program. So, really wanting to, round it out and have a journey today on a hotel program and seeing, maybe where some of these technology solutions can firm that up. So let's take a look at some of the trends. We're seeing more and more articles come out about hotels and what is happening in the hotel rates. And BTN and their partner Equation Research in August actually did a survey about what we thought hotel rates were going to do in 2024. And 77% of the respondents said that they were going to see the hotel rates go up. 34% of that group thought that it would go up 5% or more. And really saying that if that were to happen, they would have to make changes in their hotel program to mitigate those costs. What we're seeing is that is the case. GBTA did a study not long ago on talking about hotel rates are up 5 to 10%. But they also did a study saying that, really occupancy rates are also up. We're seeing a 5% increase in those occupancy rates in 2024. And so really understanding that in a corporate travel program, being able to get a handle on costs and seeing where cost savings can happen, and also seeing where the hotels are going to meet you at the rates that are going to be fair for your hotel program. And so really having that correct data is so important as well. And from what we find, our customers are saving about on average 10% or more leveraging real-time travel data and knowing really what kind of rate to go in at in their negotiations. So let's talk a little bit about, the hotel sourcing and, starting off, with where we're going to have that relationship with the hotel, locking that relationship in the hotel and having that relationship be established in the RFP in a really convenient, accurate manner. So I wanted to do a poll here on your hotel sourcing. So this will be a time where we can have a little bit of interaction. We completely appreciate, your responding. But what have you found, historically, your challenges have been in your hotel sourcing? Sourcing manually, hotels responding to RFPs, hotels not agreeing to rates you're requesting, rate loading, or your hotel contacts changing. And we really saw a lot of turnover, obviously, in the last 3 years. We saw also BTN did a article in the fall that hotels were still having a lot of challenges filling their staffing, and they were down 100,000 workers. And so, maybe some of these responding that, that you're saying is going to be around, are they responding to the RFPs? Are, the rate loadings happening? Are the contacts changing? So how are we doing on responding?
Yeah, we got over half have voted already. Maybe give it another few seconds and then we can close it off.
Yeah, absolutely. We also will be taking questions in the chat at the end. So if there is something that we talk about that you do have some questions on, we are going to leave a little bit of time today for your questions.
I think we have everyone have voted by now. Yeah, we actually got great turnout on the voting. So I'm going to close that
off.
off.
The answers.
Yeah, so I'm going to share.
So 33% are sourcing manually. This is going to lead really right into what I'm going to talk about. But I do see that, hotels not agreeing to the rates. We did see that in 2023 from a sourcing perspective, that the going back and forth between the hotel and the negotiation was going back a couple of times. And sometimes hotels were just coming back right away with trying to do a best and final from the first round of negotiations. So we are seeing that in from our customer base, and in the customers were going back and saying, no, these are the rates that we expect from a discounting standpoint. So this is really interesting. So thank you so much for participating. So really talking a little bit about the challenges in hotel sourcing, and many, 33% of you said you're doing it manually today. So if you're doing it manually, many times you're starting with data that is 6 to 9 months old. You're starting with the rate that you had last year, not necessarily, the rates that are of today. So having, that information at your fingertips can be very, very helpful. Also seeing that, a lot of times when you're doing it manually, you're using legacy sourcing technology, definitely using, times from that GBTA 2013 template. And that's 11 years old. And there's 700 data fields in that. So many data fields that maybe aren't necessary in your program, and some that maybe are of today time, that in 2013 they weren't even valid, such as virtual payment. If you dig into that template, there's not really much on virtual payment. So finding, a solution that's going to help you really ask the questions that are important to your program and not have a lengthy process for the hotel to answer, really firming up that timing when it comes back. On average, seeing hours saved by the RFP going back and forth. And also knowing what rate to start at. That is so important, having that real-time information, and also knowing if you need to go back into renegotiation because those rates have changed. So let's talk a little bit about what BTP does to solve that for those challenges. We have a technology solution that's going to watch every day, all day. So you're going to know the rates of today and also throughout the year to know if that rate has changed and you're needing to go into a renegotiation for that rate so your rates stay competitive. Also seeing, we have predictive analytics and machine learning running in the background, so being able to see where you're going in the future. So seeing where bookings are on the table and do you need to be sourcing in a new area? Are there 20 plus rooms already booked in a certain area that an RFP should be served up? And then automation, is always turned on. So being able to have RFPs go out the door during your sourcing season, we have automation that those can be done automatically. And then also if the hotel meets all of your demands, they can be accepted automatically. So really being able to have a very, very seamless program, saving time. We're seeing on average a 50-hour savings by using our solution between the hotel and the negotiator, whether it's the corporation or the TMC, by using our solution. A lot of times hotels can answer RFPs in a few minutes or less. And so that is a huge time savings overall. So let's just take a look at what the BTP automation portal looks like, really being able to see that cost savings. We also do analytics on throughout the year on, are there rebooks? Are there places where people are staying in hotels that you haven't sourced and that there's a hotel right down the street that you have sourced and maybe there'd be some reasons to move that traveler. Also, the right rate, is the right rate booked? And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into compliance, but having these corrective actions and being able to have cost savings accordingly for those actions. So let's talk a little bit about that commission securing in that conversation of the RFP. We can actually secure our commission commitment in that RFP and saying that it's required to have 10% commission for them to be responding to the RFP and locking that in at moment one. Also locking in the amenities that are important to your program, not 700 where many of them may not even be, necessary in your program, but really the top ones that are important, like Wi-Fi being included, parking being included. Parking rates have gone through the roof in the last couple of years. So really, getting those kind of amenities that are going to be important to that corporate traveler. Virtual payment, locking that down when it comes to your sourcing and making sure the hotel is going to accept virtual payment for your program if that's something important to you. And so having those amenities that are really, really, important to your program to have locked down within that RFP process.
That's great, and it's very informative. And I think a lot of this, comes back to data. One of the items that we provide, and it's included in the basic package within Grasp Data, is hotel normalization. And we use that term at Grasp often, so it's very familiar to us. But I thought it might go through a quick example of what does that actually mean. And so in this visual, you can see, there's 3 different hotels, or is it? You could have in an agency database, you could have a hotel of 3, 4, 5 different names for the same property. And so if you're using that data and you're not normalizing it into one, then your reports, your analysis, if you happen to be using AI, that's all going to be thrown off. Your duty of care could also be wrong. If you have, say, 10 people staying at the same property, but your reports aren't showing that, your duty of care is off. And so what we have is a product that it takes all that information. We have a database that shows the true hotel, and we can provide that back as a consistent view. And so, the foundation for most processes is data, quality data. And so having confidence in knowing if your data is good, and like anything else data related, if it's going to be garbage in, it's going to be garbage out. But we can take that and we can make it right. But I'd like to get a sense of, what folks think of their own data. So I'm going to ask a poll here. And before I open the poll, I just want you to think about, where you're shown, 3 hotel names in the previous example. I want to ask, in your own back office or your accounting system or your database where you have your hotel bookings, what do you think is the highest number of variations? An example I gave you there earlier, there was 3. And so I'm going to launch that poll now. And so, how many do you feel like the, number of variations would be? How many names would a hotel could go by? And this could vary, from, company to company, from agency to agency, and it kind of depends also on the nature of the hotel's properties you're booking as well. But I'll give a few minutes there just to see what everyone's thoughts are in terms of, the highest. And example there I had was sort of 3, but I wanted to get everyone's thoughts around that. So
Mike, and from my back office days, we would see this, especially from a consolidation standpoint, when, agencies would merge together, or a corporation, one corporation, another corporation would merge, that data would get really, really junky. And really having that sense of correct data and normalizing it and being able to get to that main name property where everyone settles on that same name, can be such a challenge. And having technology around it is so important to be able to get to that one name of that one hotel that's exactly that hotel.
Yeah, and that's a great use case, whether you're a TMC and you've made an acquisition, or perhaps you're a multinational that has multiple TMCs and you're bringing all that data in together. It's having that consistent view and that insight to know, okay, well, this is actually one property, it's not 3. So yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. That's a great point. And I think we have a good number of votes in already. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to share the responses. So it looks like, I think the majority are looking around 3 or 5 different variations. And I'm going to share from what we've seen in our database. It's actually greater than 10, and that's a bit. So I was kind of looking for the extreme there. What would be the most you would see. And we have one example of a hotel in Paris that actually goes by 141 different variations. And
Wow.
it's just crazy. But on average, roughly 6 or more % of all hotels have 5 names or more. So that's pretty significant, having that many names. And so it really would throw off your reporting and your analysis if you don't have that narrowed down to 1. So thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts. The other one topic I wanted to talk about, I find super interesting, because I've seen the data around this, but I'd want to sort of talk a little bit on commissions for hotels, and first of all address some perceptions. And I think most would be familiar with these, and perhaps some not. But the first perception I wanted to sort of talk about related to hotel commissions is that some TMCs believe that they may be booking all non-commissionable hotels, but from the data that we're seeing, that's not the case. In fact, even CTDs will have commissionable hotels, so that there's revenue there, revenue opportunities. And the second perception is that if I book a commissionable hotel, that I'm going to get paid commission for that booking, and that's unfortunately also a false statement. Some hotels are great at consistently paying commission, but others are not. But I wanted to ask the audience, what are your thoughts? How much money is sort of being left on the table? What percentage does not pay? Now I'm going to open up the polling here as well, but before I do, I just wanted to clarify that this is related to the number of hotel properties that are not paying you. So it's not the percentage of commissionable bookings. It's getting your thoughts on what hotel properties, what percentage of those hotel properties are not. Am I not showing my screen? There we go. I'm sorry. So what percentage of hotel properties are not paying you commission? So I'm going to open up another poll. And so again, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is always interesting to me as well from my back office days, is finding out that, many times TMCs were treating hotel commissions as found money. And we did a implementation on having a TMC who was never counting their hotel commissions start counting their hotel commissions, and they ended up collecting $60,000 more that that next year in
Hmm.
commissions, because
Yep.
before they weren't even tracking it, so they didn't know what they were even missing.
Yeah, and it's such a great find because you not have to go after new business. This is actually business you have, and you're just getting the true payment from the hotel for for the work you've done. So it's just making sure that you're getting a hotel that supports your business. So we have some voting coming in. It's not quite at 50% yet, so we'll give another few moments on that.
Yeah, and I've been talking to some of the BTP customers when they're locking that commission rate in the RFP and saying, you need to go back and make sure that that is being done. They've committed to that. The hotel is now committed to that 10% or 20 or whatever that requirement was. You need to make sure that you're collecting it, and if they're not paying it, maybe that's a hotel that has to be taken out of the program, or a discussion with that's saying, we don't work for free.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right, I think we're pretty close to closing that poll, so a couple more seconds. So if anyone hasn't voted, go ahead. All right, I'm going to close the poll. I want to share that as well. And so it looks like it is, kind of split between a 20 and 30%, which, you know what, that is, pretty spot on with our results as well. So from what we see across the industry, I'm going to hide the poll now. And so from what we're seeing, it's roughly around the 22, 23% of hotel properties do not pay commission. And so, what can you do? Well, first of all, it's having visibility on which hotels are paying commission and close the gap on what's unpaid. And that's where graspHOPR comes in, the hotel optimization product. And it's to look to see if there's an opportunity to change behaviors to book hotels that add to your bottom line. And the numbers can be significant. If Stacy had a great example, $60,000. I mean, that's huge. And sometimes it's just some minor changes. Like we see in Vegas, actually, as a great example, hotels there, may not be, a particular property may not be paying commission, but a similar hotel across the street is. So why wouldn't you, make that booking? And so the product helps you and helps agents, actually. It's not just on an agency level. We can go down to the agent level. In this example, you can show 2 bookings that I've made here. And the Courtyard has a 98% probability to pay based on previous history, and then Hilton a little less so. So that particular property doesn't pay as much. Doesn't pay as frequently. And so, having that insight, you'd be able to pivot, in the same zip code, have that, ability to change behavior, and get more revenue. And even with these numbers, we can dive into it a little bit further. So, 50% of the time, say, for instance, a hotel might be paying, but that 50% may not be on all your commission dollars. So even if they're paying 50% of the time, we're finding that hotels are a little hesitant when the commission amounts are higher. Understandably so, they want to hold back as much as they can. And so they may be paying a certain percent of the time, but they're holding back on the higher commission amounts. And so the insights that we have within the graspHOPR product provides you that. And from an operations point of view, you can see not only what is the likelihood of a hotel to pay you, but how quickly they're going to pay you. And so you can see if it's 30 days, it's 120 days, etc. And so this is an opportunity, and you can take it in a couple different ways. Do you change your own booking behavior? Or this could be an opportunity to have a conversation with the hotel property. So, okay, say we recognize, hey, you're not paying commissions. How can we make that happen? We want to support you, and just have that conversation, because that should be the change. But having that insight and assessing which hotel property is going to pay you can certainly yield a big advantage. And so just thinking also on hotel attachment rates, this is impacting for both, the TMC and the corporate. For the TMC, it's possible revenue. For the corporate, there's a compliance and duty of care. And so before diving into that, I'll just hand that over to Stacy. I think you have some good information around that, Stacy, around.
Yeah, well, we want to talk a little bit about, what your view is on compliance. What percentage of your hotel program is booked outside of your approved channels? What do you think? What do you see if you have some analytics on it? Because I think it's important to kind of talk through, having importance in compliance because of duty of care and knowing, where your travelers are, where they're staying, but in compliance into the program that you have committed to. And so being able to get control on leakage and seeing that they are booking in the proper channels, they are booking at the hotels that you've sourced, you are getting, because they're going to get the amenities too. Maybe amenities at hotels that you haven't sourced, they're not going to get the free Wi-Fi or the free parking or the free breakfast. And that's ultimately going to save in the expense from that. So just out of curiosity, if you wouldn't mind, saying, what percent of the hotel program is booked outside of your, approved channels? Is it 0? Is it 10, 20, 30, over 30? What are you finding?
So the poll is open. Getting some responses.
I think having, visibility on it, it can be really important to find this out because, once, let's say for our TMCs that are on here, you're understanding where that leakage is, there's an opportunity there of saying, how can we get your travelers in this division to travel through us? Because we're going to get them at the hotels that you have sourced with the amenities to save from an expense standpoint.
So we have roughly, I think, 2/3 voting. Maybe we'll just give it a few more seconds. All right, I'll close the poll. And here are the results.
Yep, look at that. So many of you, it's 20%, 30%, over 30%. And it's interesting what the statistics are on this. That's the average.
Mm-hmm.
Because the average that we have found is between 30 and 40%. And that's a good number. I mean, that's a high number,
Mm-hmm.
So really being able to get a handle, of that, we'll say 30%, we'll meet in the middle here of either 30 to 40, we'll say 30, is being able to get that, capture that in the travel program and see the compliance.
Yeah, and we see similar. So this example here, it's 57% with the hotel, but that's pretty significant. And we do see the average is roughly around 30%, and it's so important, for the TMC lost revenue, for the corporate, it is having the insights, on duty of care, compliance, to bring those bookings back in-house, because if they're booked out of channel, are they still adhering to policy? So, and are you getting you're maximizing your negotiated hotel discounts? And so, yeah, so I think reviewing compliance is important.
And what we do at BTP is a couple of things from a compliance standpoint. We do rate auditing throughout the year. And so being able to rate audit weekly versus annually to help address that 30%, 40% of hotel rates that are not loaded or fall out of the system. We also will tell you pre-trip if people are staying at a property that wasn't sourced and there's a property right nearby that you have sourced, or pre-trip, are they booked at the right property, but they're booked at the wrong rate? In this example, we're showing that, we've got the right property, but they're booked at the wrong rate, and there can be a nice, comfortable savings and recoverable savings if they are booked at that correct rate. So, having that be told to you pre-trip rather than after the trip is taken, the expenses are submitted, and then what always happens, someone looks and says, we have a hotel in that area. Why do they stay at this hotel? Or we have a hotel rate that's very different than this rate that they've stayed at. Or why are they expensing breakfast? They get free breakfast at the hotel. And that, when you don't have a handle on that until after the fact, then that's where that money is left on the table.
Stacy, I find this screen so telling. It's that, in practice, I think for many companies, it's they're getting that visibility after the fact. It's when the hotel's expensed, the traveler's already done their bad behavior. They're getting a little slap on the wrist, and there's nothing really that can change that event, and it also kind of leads to ongoing bad behavior. But having this pre-trip, that's wow. I mean, it's you're having that information there where you can see what are the options here, and having that visibility. So I think that's very impactful.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And I think all the things that we've shown today can really assist in the hotel program in firming up, from an expense standpoint, from where your rates are, watching the rates, being able to see that the commission is locked in, and being able to track that you are getting that commission that has been promised. So, really appreciate your time. We're going to have one more poll while we take questions. But just really want to thank you for joining us today. And we have our contact information as well. We'll be sending out the recording. We'll also be sending out the PowerPoint, so you'd be able to take a look and be able to contact us with additional questions that come up, any interest that you might have in our solutions, and would love to work with you in the future.
Yeah, thanks everyone so much for joining us. Hopefully you found it helpful. And yeah, feel free to ask some questions. We can go through those.
Peter, are there any questions so far?
Hey, Stacey and Mike. Yes, we have a few questions here. First one is, do you think there's value in negotiating directly with the ownership groups over the chains?
So
that's a good question.
That's a really good question. I think that it depends on the relationship that you have when it comes to your national account manager. So from a NAM perspective, at BTP, we do work with NAMs and how they want to be negotiated with. But I also think that having the ability to work with regional hotel properties can be important, especially if you're going to those regions very often. And they are knowing who your corporation is, and being able to treat your traveler as such. So I think that it can be a case by case basis. I also do have our co-founder and CRO, Annette Cumming, on the line. And so Annette, I'm not sure if you have any insight on this as well.
Yeah, this is a really interesting use case that we've just started to have come up in conversations. So we don't today have customers on our platform that would negotiate at an ownership level, but it's a really interesting use case that we're monitoring, very closely. For us, the RFP can go to whoever it needs to go to. We're happy to point it in whatever direction, whether that be a hotel chain or an ownership group. But I agree with you, Stacey. I think on the surface, I think it's about relationship, and if there are just different benefits that the ownership group can give you versus the chain. But it's a really interesting use case we're watching.
Peter, any other questions listed?
Next question up. What percentage of BT customers are really getting commission accepted by hotels?
That's interesting. I know that there's a lot of them that ask, but Annette, do you have any thoughts on that?
So our system does the compliance in terms of making sure it's documented, it's in the RFP, we have the paperwork trail that the hotel actually committed or not. I mean, we know either way what they've committed to. We don't do hotel commission tracking in our platform, though Grasp does. So
Yes.
the Hopper product can do that circle back. We can't see what happens between a hotel and a TMC. We don't see that stream, but the Hopper product does. But what we've actually had this happen where a customer has had to go back to all of the documentation and the back and forth that we collect within the RFP, to go back and have a conversation with the hotel because there was a question on commissions. So yeah, and I think just in general, our customers like putting that up front where it's applicable and important to them, and making it a key part of the negotiation. But yeah, the tracking of if the TMC gets it is going to be outside of our system.
Yeah, and you're spot on, Anna. That it is in the graspHOPR product. So if you wanted to see whether or not a hotel isn't paying you commission, it will tell you. And then if you've had a conversation with a hotel and say, okay, well, we're building that relationship, and you want to see has that produced results, and you're expecting commissions coming in, then the graspHOPR product will tell you if that property is now paying you commission as well, and how quickly.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Let's see. One more coming in. We are 80% government contract, nonprofit, need per diem rates. How could your product help us?
I think we're at BTP from our standpoint, we are working with per diem rates. We don't have anyone in production today doing that, but we are working on doing the per diem rates. Annette, I don't know if you want to talk about some of the government conversations we've had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so adding a cap in the capacity where you say, okay, I don't want to spend more than X in a market, or more than X even at a chain level. We're working on that development. It's on our roadmap for 2024. We do support, it's a flavor of this, we support customers who want dynamic rates with a cap. So from a negotiation perspective, if you're going to go that route, that is a negotiation type that we do support in the platform. But the rate caps will come in 2024, and the ability to set that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, we'll give it maybe another minute or so for any remaining.
Yeah,
but so far that.
Yeah,
this has been great.
Do you
Thanks,
want to
guys.
close the poll? You want to close the poll, Mike, and then we can just put the thing. Yeah, we'll put this slide up in case anyone has additional questions that wasn't able to put it in the chat, and then we can certainly answer those questions to you directly. Would love to continue this conversation and do more deeper dives into our product as well, more on the GRASP side, on the BTP automation side. So definitely appreciate your time and attention and great questions for today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thanks everyone. Have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and we will be talking soon. Thank you so much, Mike and Peter. Appreciate it for having us on today.
Thanks, guys. Good job.